I'm absolutely determined to restore honesty and integrity to government.
I'm thinking that perhaps members of Keir's party, and in particular his front bench, don't actually understand the meaning of integrity. To lose one minister is bad enough, but to lose three in as many months and just after 7 leaves a very bad taste.
Nana Akua slammed Starmer over his latest hypocritical betrayal of the British public.
It's an epidemic. High on their majority, it feels like they're making policies on the hoof with no effective opposition who can stop them, even when they know it's bad and the country hates it, like removing...
The Labour Party is desperately clinging on to power and ruining Britain in the process.
Golden opportunity for the UK to say America is our closest ally, America's on the up, America's making good decisions. And instead, Sir Keir Starmer would rather go to Brussels and have things done the way they've always been done, despite the fact that's been proven wrong, because the man is an idiot.
Idiot Starmer is being shredded for being a hypocritical slave to the liberal elites in the European Union.
And I'm asking, was leaving the EU a good thing? Now, it's now been exactly 5 years since we left, and I asked fishermen yesterday in North Shields whether it's been a success.
It's been a bit of a disaster.
I would say that really nothing's changed.
A disaster, nothing has changed. That's because we're still in the Common Agricultural Fishery Policy, which is the EU's fishery policy, which means nothing has changed. Well, that was the view from North Shields, with the consensus that it has not been good, but also because politicians have failed to deliver on Brexit.
Starmer has been doing some shady business with the European Union, and the nation feels rightfully betrayed.
So you think that being run by a bunch of unelected bureaucrats...
We're run by ourselves.
Let me finish, because I listened to you.
All right.
I did not interrupt. I politely, even though there were many moments where I literally wanted to staple your mouth together, but I didn't. I didn't. So you be quiet now when I'm speaking, please. Thank you. And it is my show. But listen, if you really think that it's wise for us to be run by unelected, unaccountable, faceless bureaucrats who do not live in this country, who do not understand this country the way that we do, and are very difficult to get rid of, and every month they go to Brussels and have a jolly, and they're on 6-figure salaries that we have paid for, I'm afraid I don't agree with that.
Nana Akua is fuming over Starmer's tone, deaf plan, and the sheer audacity of Labour's supporters.
We were paying, in 2018, 15.5 billion to the EU. What did we see for that? What did we... Billions of pounds going to the EU. Again, we've not elected any of those people. I believe in democracy. What I want to know, who is creating the laws and the legislation domestically? Why would we want the EU to do that for us?
Labour's contemplating a disgusting move back into the EU, and the consequences are going to be dangerous for us.
We had policies like eco-design direction. So many small businesses came out and said, this policy doesn't make sense. We're crippled because of these stupid, ignorant policies done by the EU, who have no concept of our smaller business in the UK. Also, this whole discussion about it's racist, people may disagree with me for this, but I think the Commonwealth should have had more opportunity to be able to come into this country. We have seen more migration, granted. Maybe people voted because they thought it was going to stop immigration completely. No, it wasn't. It was going to stop people coming from EU countries, which I'm happy about.
Starmer and his cronies have failed to deliver what Brexit was about, and the entire nation is seething.
It's actually a reason why you couldn't, because you're bound by EU legislation,
Which
EU
was
rules.
No,
that you said there's no reason.
Well, yes, but I'm explaining.
I'm explaining now. We were bound by EU regulations.
Yes.
So we have the opportunity to create less red tape and do something about our own situation, but I don't believe that we have, and I think that that is a very disappointing thing. But the other thing that I also see is that, actually looking at it, the politicians, unelected, seem to have done a better job than our own, who have shown themselves to be useless. And that's a very sad state of affairs.
Labour's entire gang of useless, incompetent and downright delusional idiots have been nothing but a disaster for this country.
Starmer is currently over in Brussels, sitting down like the poor relation with 27 EU leaders. I believe this is almost like a sort of fetish with him. I believe he's always dreamed of being an EU leader, sitting with the other EU leaders, doing Brussels business for the people of Britain who didn't vote for anyone in Brussels. I think this is some kind of fantasy for him. But what on earth is he doing there? This is a blatant betrayal.
Starmer is selling Britain out as we speak so that he can push his appalling socialist agenda at our expense.
What is he
Right.
doing there, Alex?
Taking instructions, because that's all he's able to do. The man has no conviction, he has no ideology, he's got extremely zero levels of courage, and so he would much rather be told what to do, even if it's by a failing organization that seems to make every single mistake that could be made. But actually, this is really alarming.
We're seeing the peak of Starmerism as he proves yet again just how spineless he is by bending the knee to the liberal elites.
This is a golden opportunity for the UK to say America is our closest ally, America's on the up, America's making good decisions, and instead Sir Keir Starmer would rather go to Brussels and have things done the way they've always been done, despite the fact that's been proven wrong, because the man is an idiot. The man only knows how to be a sort of corporatized civil servant.
Britain's future is on the line, but Starmer is so incredibly tone-deaf that it's frankly disgraceful. We've seen nothing but a pathetic lack of leadership from Starmer and his cronies, and it's starting to hurt the Brits. Not only are they actively making disastrous decisions, they're betraying British national interest just because Labour's too blinded by their hidden agenda peddled behind the scenes by liberal elites. The woke virus is taking over the country, and Starmer's the one spreading it at a dangerous pace. There's a furious backlash coming towards Labour, and Nana Akua is shredding Starmer's cronies to bits. It's not just Brexit either. Starmer's party of rotten and corrupt ministers is being exposed for a bunch of damning scandals.
What's up with the Labour Party? Remember this?
I'm absolutely determined to restore honesty and integrity to government.
I'm thinking that perhaps members of Keir's party, and in particular his front bench, don't actually understand the meaning of integrity. To lose one minister is bad enough, but to lose 3 in as many months and just after 7 leaves a very bad taste.
The entire Labour Party is seemingly rotten to the very core as we're seeing new scandals pop up every single day. This new scandal, one that proves that Starmer and his cronies don't have a shred of integrity, honesty, or even morality in them, might just spell the end of their government as approval ratings plummet even further. Starmer's at rock bottom, but his mental breakdowns won't save him. Meanwhile, Labour's losing ministers left and right, and within mere months we've seen the entire party fall apart. So, who is this latest woke idiot who got booted out?
Andrew Gwynn, Labour MP for Gordon and Denton and Health Minister, is the 3rd minister to leave Sir Keir's cabinet in disgrace. He made racist, sexist and offensive comments in a WhatsApp chat group. Possibly the worst comment, although there was serious competition for that spot, was a response to a letter from a 72-year-old woman who said that she had not voted Labour but wanted to inquire about bin collections.
Remember how Starmer paraded as the champion of integrity and the working class Brits? Well, it turns out that our worst suspicions are being proven right. Labour doesn't seem to care one bit about British citizens, and these leaked chats expose much more than that. Just imagine how disgusting they are to be saying outrageous things about the very people they're supposed to serve. Labour's out of touch with reality, and they think that they're above us. What this Labour minister said in response to an elderly lady's request will make you sick to the stomach, that's for sure.
Andrew shared the letter in the group chat and proposed this response. Dear resident, F your bins. I'm re-elected and without your vote. Screw you. P.S. Hopefully you'll have croaked it by the all-outs, which are local elections to you and I. It was also reported that he wrote this about another constituent who rides a bike. I have positive visions of him getting mown down.
Starmer and his disgusting lot of hypocrites just keep stooping lower and lower by every passing day. Just how immature, petty and horrendous can a single party be? They hold grudges against the public, especially those that didn't vote for Labour in the elections. That might explain why they so cruelly axe the winter fuel allowances that might end up freezing a bunch of vulnerable pensioners. To make matters worse, Starmer announced to the public that he doesn't regret a thing and refused to reverse these idiotic policies despite the harsh backlash from the public.
But seriously, what kind of people think it's a good idea to write this down, let alone think it? But Labour ministers are dropping like flies. First, it was Louise Hagan, ex-Transport Minister. After a spent conviction resurfaced, Louise claimed her mobile phone was stolen in a mugging whilst she was working for insurer Aviva. That was about 10 years ago. However, Louise found the phone and never alerted her employer. She pleaded guilty to fraud. Keir Starmer apparently knew everything, or so we were told.
They're completely deranged lunatics to be thinking such disgusting things and being shameless enough to say them out loud. Now that it's been exposed to the public, one thing is for sure, the public won't be voting for these idiots ever again. Labour has lost all credibility, and Starmer's hypocrisy is clear as day. Their support was already hitting rock bottom, but now, there's no chance that the Brits will let them in government for another decade, to say the least. In just 6 months, we've seen countless Labour ministers either resigning or expelled in damning scandals.
Then there was Tulip Siddiq, the anti-corruption minister. Sadly for Tulip, historic problems, including a property that she accepted from a developer who had links with her aunt. Her aunt happens to be an ex-dictator in Bangladesh. Tulip was being investigated by the authorities there for corruption. The irony? Well, of course, she had to resign before she was pushed.
Remember Tulip Siddiq, the corruption minister who was forced to resign over allegations of corruption? Starmer and his gang have made a complete joke out of British politics, and the entire world is left laughing at us. Make no mistake, we're seeing a historic downfall of the Labour Party, and they're completely imploding. There's rumours flying around of a potential internal revolt, and Starmer's terrified. In fact, his actions are getting desperate by the day.
He's been stripped of his ministerial role and suspended by the Labour Party pending an investigation. In a statement, Andrew said, "I deeply regret my badly misjudged comments and apologise for any offence I've caused. I've served the Labour Party all my life, and it was a huge honour to be appointed a minister by Sir Keir Starmer." Well, let's see if Sir Keir has enough integrity to report into the Parliamentary Standards Committee, which could potentially trigger a by-election, leaving the door open to the Tories or reform.
Nobody's buying that pathetic excuse of an apology from Andrew Gwynn, and rightfully so. Is he really that stupid to think that a mere apology is enough to make up for the horrible things he said? The sheer scale of this scandal is huge because it reveals what Labour really thinks about the British public. Suddenly, every shambolic policy of theirs makes perfect sense now that we know that they hate this country and its people. One way or another, Labour's in crisis mode because, if the scandals don't shatter them, Starmer and Rachel Reeves's betrayals will.
Now, it never rains but it pours for our embattled Chancellor Rachel Reeves, because the reality of a potential recession is now intensifying as business leaders express worries about the impacts of upcoming tax changes on economic growth. Bosses in the private sector said they expected a significant fall in activity over the next 3 months, with the Confederation of British Industry warning that companies are now cutting staff, moving jobs overseas and curbing investment.
To put things into perspective, our economy barely stabilised after the pandemic, and within 6 months of taking power, Rachel Reeves and Starmer have completely destroyed all chances of growth. We're seeing endless tax raids, increasing inflation, the cost of living skyrocketing, and now the businesses are being clobbered. The insurance tax hike has left many questioning the future of business in this country, and the wealthy ones are ditching this shrinking ship. As usual, there's some shady stuff going on behind the scene, and it all ties back to Starmer's obsession with the EU.
We're going to stabilise the economy. The adults are back in charge. Everything is going to be tickety-boo. That's the promise. The reality is looking rather grim.
There's a gear change for the weekend, Martin, isn't there? You've got the Chancellor in Davos last week talking about investing in Britain.
Starmer and his cronies came in pretending to be competent and promising some real change. The only change we've seen is that things have gotten considerably worse. It turns out that every single promise this idiotic government made was nothing more than disgraceful lies to win over support. The moment they got into power, we've seen every promise betrayed. And of course, what is Rachel Reeves doing? Flying around Europe, carrying out shady deals.
Is so important, but she recognises without growth you can't do anything this government wants to do. They've spent a long time being gloomy about the economy. The Tories would say talking it down. Labour would say being realistic about what they say is a £22 billion black hole they uncovered when they came to power. So yeah, we have got Rachel Reeves out on Wednesday in a big speech setting out how she wants to get the economy going. We're expecting news on 3 airports expansions, Luton, Gatwick and Heathrow.
The most pathetic part about all of this is that they created this mess to begin with. Starmer and Rachel Reeves spent months whining about just how horrible the state of the UK's economy was, and now they're acting surprised that investors don't have any confidence in this country's future. The doom and gloom they spread with their imaginary 22 billion black hole was enough to make everyone run from this country. On top of that, Rachel Reeves and Starmer's insurance hikes destroyed the remaining businesses.
The problem is the actual facts of what's going on are not great. Sainsbury's cutting 3,000 jobs, concerns about the impact of national insurance increase for employers, and she's meeting regulators trying to lift regulation, get the economy booming.
Well, they might need a superhero on that movie set. I don't think they've got one in the government at the moment, and there's a poll out over the weekend, so now only 42% of the public have faith in Rachel Reeves and the Labour Party, plummeting confidence.
The reality is as far as possible from the delusional fantasy land that Labour promised. The job losses have only just begun and things are about to get considerably worse. We haven't seen the full consequences of most of Labour's ridiculous policies. Things are looking bleak, especially with their treacherous move back into the EU. At this point, the hypocrite Starmer needs a superhero to get him out of this mess because the public doesn't have any hopes from these liars anymore.
Yes. At the same time as the boom time that's going on in America, Donald Trump expected to drill, baby drill, slash corporation tax, all kinds of executive orders, huge optimism. This side of the pond, it's doom time. And it's worse, cozying up to Brussels. 5 years on, this Friday is the Brexit +5 when we left the European Union. Everybody is saying, what about looking towards Donald Trump? Except the Labour Party. They want to jump back into bed with Brussels.
While our economy is down in the gutter, America's booming with business and growth prospects. And guess what Starmer is doing instead of securing good deals with Trump? He's doing the exact opposite of what's good for this country by bending over backwards for other socialist European leaders. This betrayal of the public for their globalist agenda will come to haunt Starmer for years, as his career might be over sooner than he thinks.
Where do they go? Towards the US and trying to be more outward looking towards the US, or towards the EU? And I think the government right now is choosing to get better bilateral ties with leaders in the European Union. That's right, this Friday the government has no plans to mark the 5th anniversary of Brexit.
What?
Well, they aren't.
Currently, we stand at a very decisive moment of British history as our future is on the line. The choices that Starmer makes will have long-lasting consequences, and the bad news is that nobody trusts him to make the right ones. Perhaps the most humiliating thing for the Labour Party is that the choice is painfully obvious. Starmer's struggling to choose between a booming nation that will help our economy stabilise and a crumbling European Union run by out-of-touch bureaucrats. Make no mistake, Labour's just as hypocritical and out of touch as the rest of them, and currently they're behaving like third world dictators.
Sir Keir Starmer, the modern titan of this country who stood on a plinth of integrity, his party laid into Boris Johnson, and now we find yet another suspicious-looking breach of the rules, a breach which he denies. The information coming too late in the day for it to be scrutinised, and it would seem that his party are so unpopular that they're now moving the goalposts so you can't get rid of them.
Starmer managed to manipulate the entire nation into believing that he was Mr. Rules, who valued integrity and honesty above everything else. Now, the mask is off and the public sees him as a total hypocrite and nothing else. This man has been involved in every single scandal that he bashed the Tories for, and yet he has the audacity to pretend that he has done nothing wrong. Starmer's being humiliated for this voice coach blunder, as Nana Akua doesn't mince her words.
Christmas Eve, an alleged trip to Sir Keir's private voice coach. Not that it would help, mind.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Definitely needs more work. But frankly, who would need to use a private voice coach on Christmas Eve? In my view, this is on a par with Dominic Cummings testing his eyes. Apart from the actual emergency services, who's working late the night before Christmas? Voice coaching is hardly an essential service.
The stuttering Starmer, who can't even give a speech without a script, surely needed that voice coach to make him sound less robotic. The guy has negative amounts of charisma and is in no way, shape or form fit to be a prime minister. Still, that doesn't mean that he is allowed to sidestep the strictest lockdown rules that were in place during the pandemic. By what delusional and ridiculous definition does a voice coach fit the criteria for a key worker? Two-tier Keir has proved yet again that he's disgustingly out of touch with the public, and there's one rule for his cronies and another for the rest of us.
This is almost as bad as the excuse that he gave explaining why he wasn't in his own house during lockdown, despite telling everyone to stay at home.
In my office working on the expected Brexit deal. With my team, we had to analyse the deal as it came in at speed, prepare and deliver a live statement at speed on one of the most important issues for our country in recent years. That's what I was doing.
Starmer's own stories don't add up, as he has allegedly broken the lockdown rules multiple times. The excuse that he did so to work was utterly laughable, considering the fact that all of us were working from home during that time. Labour's hypocrisy knows no bounds. They claim to support national interests, yet Starmer is running around doing whatever he wants, like cozying up to the very people who want to dictate our laws and strangle our economy with endless regulations from the EU.
But the art of democracy seems to be dead with this lot. The Labour Party got in saying one thing and then doing the very opposite. Drunk on their majority, I think they believe that it gives them carte blanche to do what the hell they like. Like cancelling local elections where the public get to decide who their local councillors will be, especially as they're planning to put up council tax. Both the Tories and Labour are running scared.
Democracy is being denied to the British public by this insecure and terrified government. Labour is in crisis mode and Starmer's getting desperate. In a move to hold on to power, they've cancelled council elections without asking anyone about it. How dystopian is it when the citizens aren't even asked for their opinions in a democracy? Labour won a landslide and they're taking advantage of it. Naturally, they'll soon lose all support, and Starmer's desperate actions won't save him from accountability.
High on their majority, it feels like they're making policies on the hoof with no effective opposition who can stop them, even when they know it's bad and the country hates it, like removing the winter fuel from our pensioners. Somehow, their MPs club together, ignoring the constituents and voting it in or shamelessly abstaining. This Labour government, in my view, are moving the goalposts of democracy. That's what dictators do. And we're the ones who have to actually pay for it.
Starmer's Labour is a masterclass in deceit and gaslighting. They attack the Tories over the cost of living crisis, yet they push for European madness and tax hikes that would cripple working families. They're banding together like a mob and passing their lunatic policies. Starmer wants to make Britain a socialist nightmare, but at what cost? Sky-high energy bills, job losses, and dependence on foreign oil. This isn't a plan, it's economic sabotage disguised as progressive policy. If they didn't care about the vulnerable pensioners, they sure won't care about the rest of us.
As you say, I'm not sure we can dig into the details of that and know why Keir had to see a voice coach on Christmas Eve, but what we do know is that when Keir and Angela were challenged on this, they committed to resign as leader and deputy leader of the Labour Party at the time if they were found guilty of any wrongdoing over breaches of COVID rules.
Labour's endgame is clear. Weaken Britain, empower the EU, and push globalist agendas at the expense of the British working class. Starmer's vision for the UK is one where elites prosper while ordinary citizens struggle under the weight of bloated government control. If he thinks the British people are too blind to see through the charade, he's in for a rude awakening. Nana Akua is exposing Starmer's hypocrisy on all levels, and Labour's running out of excuses. The public is waking up and they're demanding accountability.